Ready to dive into some serious AI today? We're tackling a paper that's had a bigger impact than you might realize. Attention is all you need.
Yeah, this one's a game changer. I mean, it's basically everywhere now, even if people don't realize it.
It's kind of wild how it's revolutionized everything from those eerily good text predictions on your phone to, well, the whole rise of super realistic chatbots.
It's true. And to think it all started with a pretty simple challenge, right? Teaching machines to translate languages and, I mean, really translate them well.
And not just like a word-for-word dictionary lookup, which anyone who's used Google Translate 10 years ago knows was
Yeah, it wasn't pretty.
not pretty at all.
Back then, it was all about recurrent neural networks, RNNs. And don't get me wrong, they worked. Kinda.
Uh,
But it was like trying to understand a sentence by reading one word at a time with a dictionary in hand. Slow, clunky.
and you could just forget about anything longer than a couple sentences, like,
Ugh.
good luck understanding Shakespeare that way.
Exactly. But this paper, it dared to ask, what if we could teach computers to process language more like we do?
So instead of going word by word like a robot, it's more about looking at the whole sentence, the context, to really grasp the meaning.
Precisely. And that's where attention comes in. You know, when you're reading a gripping mystery novel and you find yourself naturally paying attention to certain clues, the characters' interactions.
Trying to piece it all together.
Right. The authors of this paper wanted to recreate that same kind of attention within machines.
So they basically said, scrap the old way, let's try something radically different.
Exactly. They introduced this new architecture called the transformer, and it's all about using attention to process entire sentences at once, focusing on the relationships between words, not just their individual meanings.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting for me, because how do you teach a machine what to pay attention to? Isn't that subjective?
It's the genius part. They developed something called multi-head attention, which is like having a whole team of detectives on the case, all looking at different aspects of the sentence.
A whole team of detectives. Okay, now we're talking. So instead of one algorithm trying to do it all, they've got specialists, each with their own focus.
Exactly. It's like having, say, one detective laser focused on all the verbs, really figuring out the sequence of events.
Makes sense. Action words got to be important.
And then you've got another one. Maybe they're all about the nouns, figuring out who's doing what to whom.
Okay, I like this analogy. So we've got all these detectives comparing notes, each adding their piece to the puzzle.
Hmm.
But how does that actually make for better translations? Like, rubber hits the road, show me the magic.
Well, that's where the paper's results come in, right? They put the transformer to the test. Two huge translation tasks, English to German and English to French.
Big challenges.
And the results were, well, let's just say they turned heads. Not only did the transformer beat everything else out there accuracy-wise, but it did it way faster. We're talking a whole new era of machine translation.
Significantly faster, though. That's a bit relative. They were working with some serious hardware, weren't they?
Oh yeah, they weren't messing around. 8, count them, 8, top-of-the-line P100 GPUs. Those things are beasts.
So like the supercomputers of the AI world at the time.
Exactly. But even then, the transformer just blew through the training. I mean, one task they talk about, it used to take a full day. Transformer did it in a little over an hour.
Okay, now that's impressive. Talk about a speed boost.
Yeah.
But, and I got to ask, because sometimes speed comes at a cost, was there any trade-off? Like, did the accuracy suffer for all that speed?
That's the thing, it didn't. In fact, it was the opposite. They consistently got better translations compared to the old models, even the ones that took way more computing power. They used this metric called BLEU, and the improvements were undeniable.
So faster and better. Okay, now that's just showing off. It seems like this attention idea was a real breakthrough. But did they just stick to translation? Or did they sort of, let it loose in other areas of AI, see what it could do? It's like they found, I don't know, some secret ingredient for artificial intelligence. Like they cracked the code on how machines can really understand information.
It's a great analogy, and you can tell, even in the paper, the researchers knew this was big. They even hinted at, like, hey, this transformer thing, it could go way beyond just translation.
They weren't content with just, shaking up one field. They wanted to see how far this could really go.
Absolutely. And remember how we talked about RNNs struggling with those long sentences because they had to go step by step?
Yeah, like trying to understand a whole movie one frame at a time.
Exactly. But with the transformer, suddenly you could grasp these long sequences all at once. It opened up all these possibilities for tasks that RNNs just couldn't handle.
So what happened? Did other researchers kind of pick up the ball and run with it?
Oh, it was more like a wildfire, honestly. Everyone was trying the transformer on everything they could think of: image captioning, speech recognition, even predicting how proteins fold in 3D.
Wow, from translating languages to like mapping the building blocks of life, that's a serious leap.
It really shows you the power of this attention idea. And what's even more exciting is this is still just the beginning. Like, AI is constantly moving, but the transformer, that's become a core part of so many breakthroughs.
It's amazing to think where this could all lead. But what I find really cool about this paper is it's not just, hey, we found the answer, case closed. They actually talk about the limitations and what could be improved, what to explore next. It's refreshing, that honesty in research.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder that even the biggest breakthroughs, they're part of this ongoing journey. There's always more to learn, more to uncover.
Well said. And for our listeners, if you're as hooked on this whole attention thing as we are, we've got a link to the original paper in the show notes, plus some other resources to really dive in.
And hey, next time your phone finishes your sentence or you're reading a website in another language without breaking a sweat, take a second to appreciate the power of attention. It's pretty amazing what a little focused thinking can do.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. And until next time, keep those minds curious.